Hello. Can anyone hear me? Hi. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Let me just set it up real quick. Hi. Um, can you guys see the slide? Okay, that's perfect. Hi everyone. My name is Nurlyza. You can call me Liz. I am the first presenter for today. And I want to thank CS Girlies for having me here. I'm very excited to talk about my presentation and the topic that I'm going to be talking about today, which is Duolingo, Finch, and Strava, and the computer science behind habit building apps. Right. And I kind of want to talk to the audience first before I start. Um, how many of you guys have heard of the app Duolingo? Thank you. How many of you guys have heard the app Duolingo? I feel like it's a very famous app. Been on it for ages. Yeah, me too. Um, and do you have a streak on Duolingo? You did? Was it over like 30 days? You still love Duolingo? Yeah, everybody loves Duolingo. Over 30 days. Wow, that's a lot of commitment. But I guess that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Um, I do want to ask you a question for the people that has a streak on Duolingo. You guys don't have to answer, but I just kind of want you to think about the question. When was the last time you opened the app or Duolingo in specific because you actually wanted to learn something, right? And not because you didn't want to lose the streak number. Because I think those two things came apart at some point for most of us, and nobody really noticed when. And I'm a computer science graduate in University of Greenwich in London. I'm taking my master's in September for cybercrime. So I'm not a product designer, which means I'm going to be looking at these apps the way you would look at any other system that was handed to you. So basically, today, what we're going to do, or at least what I'm going to do, is I'm going to break down the mechanisms that these apps uses, how it's built, what it's and like what does it do, and what it's doing to the person at the end, the other end of it. So I kind of want to frame it as your favorite apps are designed to manipulate you, which kind of sounds like an accusation and a negative thing, but it really isn't. I just kind of mean it as like a description because somebody decided that the streak counter should exist. Like somebody wrote that notification and picked the minute it fires, right? And none of it fell out of the sky. It was all machines anyone has ever built. They get people to do a hard thing every day for years, which is exactly the problem that you're all trying to solve in the hackathon, which the theme is technology for wellness. When I think about technology for wellness, how I frame it is that how do you get a person to keep doing the good thing on the day they can't be bothered? That's all you want them to do, right? So these three apps cracked that, and they aimed these mechanisms at stay at the app, so they make it so good that the people would get addicted to the apps. So basically, we're taking them apart, not so you'll delete the apps because they are good apps, and I still use them. Okay, so quick definitions, right? And then I will stop being like kind of academic about it. This end, you've got motivation. So for example, Strava, the app Strava, if you've ever heard of it, it's an app that tracks your runs. So for example, you wanted to run, right? And it tracks your run. That's fine. It's basically a tool doing its job. But at this end, you've got manipulation. Oh, sorry. Manipulation. The app makes you want something you never planned to want. Like, for example, you did not wake up one morning caring about a number. For example, the Duolingo streak, but the app hands you a number and then it gave you a reason to care about it. And then in the middle here, there's this bit, which is where everything actually lives. So, for example, Duolingo teaches you Spanish, right? But it also manufactures a small panic at 11 p.m. at night to make you want to study Spanish. Both are true, the same app as well. And Finch, if you don't know what Finch is, it's a self-care app where you look after a little bird, and how the bird is doing depends on whether you've logged your mood. So it's a mood tracker with a hostage in it. And Strava, the tracking for your run thing. So for example, you went for a run and Strava will tell you that you came third on the leaderboard. So now its job is not to track your run anymore. It's a competition. You never really asked for it. You never signed up for a competition, but now it is. And none of that is accidental, right? No app has ever been compelling by accident. These are decisions written in code, shipped in a release, and there are 4 mechanisms. And I'm going to be talking about all 4 of those. The first mechanism is, last I had it was before Duolingo Premium. I think I had about 20 plus days. That's good. That's a good commitment. I never even made it past 5. But mechanism 1 is gamification. The textbook definition of gamification is game mechanics in a non-game context, which is true, but completely useless and doesn't tell us anything. But the better version of the definition is that you take the specific bits of a game that make people keep playing and you bolt them onto something that isn't fun. And there's 4 layers to this as well. The first one is points. Fairly easy. You finish a lesson, the bar moves, and your XP appears. You get 10 XP, for example. But what it's actually doing is that it's closing a loop. You did a thing, half a second later, something visibly changed because of it. And this works because in real life, it never does that. For example, you do 6 months of Spanish before you can confidently order a coffee without sweating. But this gives you the same dopamine hit in about 400 milliseconds. That's why it's so important and so very strong. And this is also the cheapest thing in this entire talk. So take it. Whatever you're getting someone to do during the hackathon, whether it's drink water, breathing, standing up from their desk, make something visible happen the second they do it. Like a progress bar, because then they will get that dopamine hit that makes them want to come back. The second one is a streak. A streak is not a reward, right? It looks like a reward. It's shaped like a reward, but it isn't, because points give you something. A streak gives you something to lose. Completely different feeling wearing the same outfit. So for example, if any of you guys have used Snapchat, I'm sure you have, they have a streak, right? Day 1, it's worth nothing. You would literally drop it without noticing or thinking about it. But day 45, it's worth 45 days of your life. And that's when you find yourself at night at like 11:58 p.m. panicking to snap one of your friends to keep the streak going. And I want you guys to look at what you're protecting in that moment. It's not your friendship. Nobody has ever, rekindled their friendship at 11:58 p.m. You don't need to snap them every night. You're protecting the number. And basically, the app have swapped the goal for a proxy of the goal. And you will fight for the proxy way harder than you ever fought for the actual thing. And I want to take Duolingo, for example. The Duolingo streak, it will give you a notification at 11:58 at night. You open the app not to learn Spanish. You open the app to keep the streaks going. So you will find the easiest lesson you can do to keep the streaks going. Which means that this mechanism is probably very impressive and also the most sinister thing on this whole presentation. And the next thing is points. Badges, badges. Points are what you did, right? But badges are who you are. So for example, quote unquote, I did 100 lesson. That's an activity. That's an explanation of an activity. But a badge that says, oh, I've done a streak for 100 person or 100-day streak or something like that. That's an identity, right? And once it's an identity, quitting isn't stopping a thing you do. It's not stopping an activity. it's becoming somebody else, which is a much higher wall to climb. And the next thing is leaderboards, which is just competition in a fancy word, imported from somewhere you never really asked for or signed up for. So, for example, Strava, it tells it will tell you that you came third on the leaderboard, for example. You didn't enter anything. You went outside to move your body, but now there's a scoreboard. There are two strangers ahead of you, and you have like bad feelings about them, and you want to beat them basically. And you would go out on a Tuesday to run just because you wanted to beat the people in the leaderboard, which is not really bad, but it is also kind of a manipulation tactic if you think about it. And I guess here I kind of want to talk about what does this cost to build, right? This is like one of my favorite slides. So you need a table, user ID, 4 columns, which is very easy. User ID, streak count, total XP, and badges earned. And the logic is if the action is completed, increment, check whether a threshold got crossed, and that's literally it. That's a first year exercise. Everyone in this room could build Duolingo's entire gamification layer this afternoon and still make dinner. So the engineering is free. The expensive part is knowing which 4 columns move a human being. And that's not computer science, right? That's psychology. And these companies are worth what they're worth, billions of dollars, because somebody put those 2 things in one room, which is crazy. So mechanism 2, the app learns you. So there's 3 steps, and they have been running since the first time you open the app, basically. There's 3 things, which is collect, profile, and predict. Collect basically means which lessons you finished, which ones you bailed on halfway, what time you open it, what time you close it, right? Which notification you tapped, and which one you swiped away without reading. And that last one is the one that people miss because you ignoring something is data. There's no such thing as not doing anything. So, quote unquote, she didn't respond is a row in a table somewhere, and it is a useful row because they're going to use that to your advantage. And profile, the second thing, and this is also way more boring than people imagine. It's not some creepy dossier where they're kind of watching what they're doing, but it's more like short lessons. She starts around 8, drops off after the third one, right? Responds to social nudges, ignores progress nudges, for example. And that's you, that's the entirety of you. But as far as the system is concerned, it's only 4 lines, which is kind of either comforting or insulting. I'm not really sure. I have genuinely never decided. But it's only 4 lines to the system. It's not like they're watching you or anything. The third one is predict. So serve lesson 4 at say 7:50 instead of 8:10. Make it slightly easier than lesson 3 because the model knows this user quits when the difficulty jumps right after 2 wins. So they want to keep you between bored and frustrated because on either side of that band, you close the app. And this is the piece that I don't think anyone's using properly, because imagine the system noticing which coping strategy actually worked for you. Say, for example, oh, that box breathing settles you, but the body scan doesn't, right? And it quietly gave you more of what works. So it's the same engine, nothing really modified, but it's just being asked a different question. And under the hood, this isn't some exotic system at all. The simplest version of this is collaborative filtering, right? So find people who behave like you, look at what kept them around, and show you that. You could write a rough version of the system this weekend. I can promise you that. It's very, very easy. But this next bit is the thing I actually want you to keep, right? Because the model isn't the hard part. The objective function is. And what that means is that whatever you tell the system to maximize, it will maximize ruthlessly forever. No taste, no conscience, no days off. So if you ask the app or you tell the system to maximize minutes, for example, it would be a system that is really good at eating minutes, and it gets better every week. And tell it to do another thing, and it will be a completely different app out of the same code base. So when an app feels like it's fighting you, it's usually not broken, right? It's working, but it's optimizing for something that isn't you, which is sometimes when people tell me, oh, I did choose to open the app. I chose to open it. It's kind of fiction to me because it doesn't really hold up. You did kind of choose to open the app. It was, you know, consentful that you opened the app, but it was an app that was made for you, off a menu that it wrote for you. And then mechanism 3. And let's rename it straight away because the name reminders is a lie. A reminder is something you set for yourself. This is a scheduled interruption, notifications, right? Timed to land when you're at the weakest. So 2 completely different products sharing the same icon. Timing first, right? You open the app at 2, for example. So it pings you at 1:33. And that's not a default. Nobody at Duolingo picked a nice round number. That's your own history played back at you. They do it because they know you're going to open the app at 2. And you can prove it later when you're with your friends. Ask each other what time your Duolingo notification lands, and everyone will have a different minute. And then none of them will match. I can promise you that. Now ask what that timing is for, right? It's set to the moment you're most likely to open the app, which is the moment it profits off of you, which is the moment it earns. Nothing about the system requires that. You could point exactly the same targeting at the moment someone's own data says they tend to dip. So one system, there's 3 levers, right? The wording. Don't break your streak, for example. One of the notification it says that initiate fear. Your friend just finished, that initiates FOMO. And you're 20 XP away, that initiates progress. So it's same pipes, 3 different ways in. And which one you get isn't random. It's whichever one who worked on people like you. Because frequency is the boring one. But it also matters because too many notifications and you will uninstall. Too few and you will forget that it exists. And there's a narrow band in between, and it's different for every single person. And nobody found that band by having a good taste, right? They tested, they experimented, half gets A and half gets B, measure the opens, ship the winner, and bin the loser, and do it again tomorrow. And they use that for people like you. And which means every single notification you've ever had from these apps won an experiment. You didn't opt into an experiment because you were kind of the experiment. And mechanism 4, which is the strongest thing on the list, and by a mile also the oldest. It beats the smartphone by about 70 years, the slot machine. So there's 2 versions of the same feature, right? The first one is predictable and variable. Predictable, you finish a lesson, you get 10 XP every time. Fair, reliable, and dead boring within a week, right? So boring. Because when your brain solves the rule, and once it knows the rule, there's nothing left to find out. It's boring. You don't want an app like that. But variable, usually when you do something, say for example, you get 10 XP, but sometimes there's a chest. And sometimes there's a secret potion. Sometimes you get coins and stuff like that. Sometimes nothing at all. And because you can't tell which one you're getting, you keep checking. Because the reward isn't the XP. The reward is the not knowing. And people love gambling. So they get addicted to that, right? And I guess the code behind that is the implementation. So if the action is completed, roll a number, and if it's under 0.1, give them the bonus, give them the chest, give them the coins, right? But if it's not, then give them the normal thing, give them only the XP. It's only 3 lines. 3 lines of the most like boring code you will ever write. And it's basically like a slot machine, right? Same schedule, same effect, same bit of your brain, running inside an app that markets to children. And I'm not going to do the bit where I say like, oh, and therefore it's evil, because variable rewards are also why games are fun and why surprise parties work, because it's neutral, right? It's just very strong and it costs nothing, which is a very dangerous combination. The barrier that was never technical, right? So this is the bit that I want you to sit with, specifically as computer scientists, because I don't think it comes up enough. None of you guys are going to be stopped by the difficulty of building this, right? Because it's 3 lines. The barrier was never technical, and it was never going to be. Which means the only thing standing between, oh, I can build this and I should build this, is you, right? Sitting there deciding, and nothing in your degree or your hobby is going to make that decision for you. Because the interesting question about this code was never whether you can write it, it's about what you point it at. And during the hackathon, because you already know the theme, which is technology for wellness, it's not abstract anymore. That's the entire assignment. You have to point it at that. You have to point it at technology for wellness. The same 4 tools, right? The one I talked about. So if we put it together, because literally this is the point of today's talk, these 4 mechanisms act as a playbook, and it's the most effective behavior change playbook that exists because billions of dollars went into tuning it. Points get someone a win they can actually see. Streaks get someone through 10 days of taking their meds on the day they don't feel like it. The recommendation engine finds the coping strategy that works for this specific person rather than the one that works on average. And a variable reward celebrates a small recovery win in a way that doesn't go stale. And if you notice, I haven't changed a single thing on any mechanisms. This is public, this is out there. I haven't invented anything. The code is identical to what Duolingo and Finch and Strava are already running. The only thing I've changed and what you guys are gonna change is what it's aimed at, right? So the hard part is that every app on this slide is manipulative. And every app on this slide as well is genuinely useful. And I'm not going to pretend one of those cancels out each other, because they don't. Duolingo manufactures urgency, and that pressure has nothing to do with language and everything to do with retention. But it is also true that millions of people who would never have picked up a textbook have now learned some Spanish. Finch builds a creature that gets sad when you don't turn up, which is emotional leverage, a hostage. Deliberately engineered, aimed at people who downloaded a mental health app and are therefore, by definition, not at their strongest. It is also true that people log their mood because of that bird, right, for months, which is an outcome that most apps in this category never get anywhere near. And Strava turns your run into a ranking. For people who never asked for a competition, it is also true that people also move more, measurably more. So the test can't be whether an app uses these techniques, because they all do, every one of them without exception. So here's the test, right? Does the app serve you, or do you serve the app? Learning Spanish, for example, it serves you, right? That's what you signed up for. But 11:58 p.m. at night, protecting a streak you stopped caring about in March, that's you serving it. The same app, same features, only one of them is a problem. You have to see it in a different way, in a different perspective. And if you want one question to take into the hackathon, ask yourself this, right? Does the person feel better afterwards? Not during when they're opening the app or using the app, but after, because during is engineered. Do they feel better after using the app? And so there's three things to take away, right? These three apps are the best habit engineers that have ever been built. Not the flashiest, not the most complex, as I said, but the best at one thing that wellness actually needs, which is getting a person to keep doing something good for themselves on the day they don't really want to. Respect that, but also steal from it. Second, the machinery is neutral, but the target isn't. Everything I've shown you is a few lines of code plus a decision what to aim it at. And these three mostly aimed it at engagement because they want people to keep opening the app. You don't have to do that. You can aim it at anything you want. And the third is you have the playbook, which is really the only thing I want you to walk out with. The 4 mechanisms that you can use during the hackathon, and I'm sure you can make a great app out of it. So here's where I leave you. I'm not sure if it's 1 week to the hackathon. I wrote it just because generally I'm not sure, but the next time Duolingo pings you at a certain time, you'll know exactly why it picked that minute, right? Which lever the wording is pulling and which experiment that sentence had to win in order to reach you. And that's the seeing it part. And honestly, it doesn't go away. You will keep seeing it. You will understand the notifications and won't see the app the same anymore. But you're not here just to see it. You're here because during the hackathon, you're going to build something. And you now have the same 4 mechanisms these billion-dollar app have sitting in your back pocket. They pointed theirs at keeping people in the app, right? You've got, I'm not sure when, but you've got some time to think about what to point yours, for example, helping someone. And yeah, that is it for me. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay, awesome. You did such a great job. I love that topic so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. I took an HCI class in college, so we had a couple classes about this concept, and I just love the idea of making sure that you're the one in control of the app and not the other way around. Like
Yes,
you see that on
exactly.
all kinds of apps
Mm-hmm.
lately. I just wanted to open it up to the chat really quick for a couple questions. If you have any, just type them. We can wait a
Yes.
couple minutes for those, and then we'll have to wrap up.
Perfect.
Yeah, I see a couple people typing right now. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I'm a bit nervous because I'm the first one, but thank you.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Have you
About
done
1 week
workshops
left.
before? Is this your first time?
No, I've done a couple, but the fact that I'm the first is a bit nerve-wracking, but
Totally
I'm very
understand.
excited. Yeah. You guys have a long way to go. There's still a bunch of speakers left, aren't there?
We'll get through it because we're excited. Our
Yeah,
team is
I bet.
a little bit, so we'll be fine. But yeah, we're all excited. Okay,
Knowing
there's a
this, how did this influence your future projects? Well, I guess I'm not really an app developer, right? I'm also not a product designer, but theoretically, because I want my app to succeed, I will use all these mechanisms and I will manipulate the audience to want to play my app or use my app. But I still want them to realize whether they're, using the app for them or the other way around. But because I'm the one making it, I do want them to be on the app forever because then that's profiting me. But that's not really ethical though. So I'm kind of like iffy about that.
Definitely two different perspectives on that. Yeah, it's like if
Yeah,
you're the one building it, obviously you want people to use it, but if you're the
yeah,
one using it, you're like, "Hey, wait a second."
exactly. That's why I guess I'm talking about this because I want, the audience and the people that use these apps to realize that these apps are manipulating you for sure.
Okay, there's one more question that will probably be the last one before we have to wrap things up.
Cool. Which mechanism to use for different projects? Like, how do you choose a mechanism in a good way? Um, I guess there's kind of like a middle ground for it, right? Between manipulative and motivation. You don't want it to be too manipulative, but you also kind of want them to use it all the time. So you have to find an objective that's really good to kind of balance that out. Say, for example, yes, exactly, gaslight a girl boss. But what you want is, for example, Duolingo. It does manipulate you, right? They add all of these four mechanisms that I just talked about in the app, but it also helps you learn Spanish, which is a huge thing. Not only Spanish, a bunch of languages, but that's a good thing. Like Strava as well, it helps you track your runs. It makes you, get out of your bed and move your body, which is really good. So it kind of balances out the manipulation part. So I guess that's what I'm going to be saying. Yeah, you can pick whichever mechanism you want, but usually two is fine. You don't have to do all four because it's a lot of work. Yeah,
Okay. I think that was the last question, so that's gonna wrap up our first
perfect.
workshop of the marathon, and so our next one
Thank
is
you
gonna be
guys.
starting in about 10 minutes. It'll be reading the signals, making wellness tech that actually listens. But yes, thank you so much for being here and for helping everyone prepare for the hackathon. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Emily.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.